Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Saturday. We've got a great show planned for you today. We've got Christian Gossett here for a second time. As you know, I think we had a show with him about 7 months ago or 6 months ago. It feels like it's been a while, early in the year, but we had a lot of fun the last time, and we've been talking about getting another one of these put together for you, and we're going to do it today. So I'm not going to leave Christian in the green room whatsoever. We're going to get him in here so we can talk shop. Hey, Christian, how are you doing?
Hey, Bill. I'm fantastic. Great to be back.
Well, it's good to have you back as well. I mean, we were, talking beforehand, but it has been about 6 months, right? We did it right around January, February, I think,
Yeah.
right? All right. Well, that was a good time, and we hadn't gotten I really didn't know a whole lot about you before then. And it's always fun for me to get to know an artist and the breadth of their career. But your career is just so diverse.
That's for sure.
That I can't think of you as a like a comic artist, right? Because you're not. You've been a director, a writer, an illustrator. You've done so many different things. I mean, when you think about your career, I mean, and how would you describe yourself as a professional?
That's a great question. I would say storyteller, and that's the thing I've always tried to do. When I was a kid, I'd go see a movie and I'd come home and I'd do my own little scenarios based on Jaws or Star Wars or whatever movie we'd come home from. And I always want to see like other parts of the story that I would just make up based on the inspiration that I gotten from the movie. So it's always been about story. And that's why I've been able to go from medium to medium because it's really was about that, whether it's working on a PlayStation game or a movie or a television like I am now, or a feature film that I'm on as of a couple of weeks ago. It's always just about telling stories with pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember. Well, last week I was reading like your bio or something, and you had mentioned, that your favorite creators, as far as film directors, were all artists in some way or had some kind of an art bent. And I guess that kind of makes sense, right? I mean, you're kind of drawn to people who have multiple skills.
Yeah, for sure. All my favorite directors can draw. My favorite musicians can draw. There's so many people that can draw, but they hide it because they don't feel like it's all that good. But it's actually, they're pretty, within their own little vibe. It's really, they can do some pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's, well, I can draw. So we have that in common too. Not as well as you can though.
Hey, will you remind me how to, I can get on the chat, right?
Actually you can't unless you
I can't chat. Okay.
Yes,
hi everybody on the chat. I can't chat, but hello, welcome. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks, Bill.
Well, you can see. Make sure you put yourself on the comments so you can see the chat that's going on. And the only way you can chat if you want to is to open a second window, but make sure you mute it on YouTube, and then you can text in there.
Muting it will work. I can mute it and it'll be okay.
Yeah, because then it'll have an echo if you don't.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm gonna try that now. All right, I'm going to mute it. So I mute the window itself.
Yeah, you got an ultra wide screen like I do, so you can.
Yeah, totally. You too.
Very good. And Cameron was one of the artists on Christian's list of directors that were also artists. And that's true.
Artist.
Cameron does his own storyboarding, right?
You should see it if you've never seen his paintings for. The Terminator, the first Terminator, you're missing out. They're amazing. And of course, he did the drawing of Kate Winslet in Titanic. That was his hand drawing her.
I remember reading that, actually.
Super cool.
But didn't, I think I've seen some of his storyboards out there for sale, maybe on Heritage or something, but I haven't seen anything that I would consider to be a painting. I've seen a lot of rough pieces that he's done storyboard-wise. Where would I find something like that, Christian?
Gosh, yeah, that's a great question. I would Google it. I just Google it and see if that's possible to get. Maybe I'll bug the Academy Museum just for some Jim Cameron artwork. That'd be really cool. They should have it there. That's what they should do it, because he really was so. He comes from art department. He started at Roger Corman doing art department type stuff, and just kept going, just kept drawing it until it was real.
Very cool. Yeah, Marcus mentions Tim Burton. Yeah, I think Tim Burton was in the list as well, wasn't he?
I worked with Tim Burton on Alice in Wonderland, the first Alice in Wonderland movie. I worked directly with Ken Ralston. I never got to meet Tim, but all of our artwork and the artwork of the department that I was running at Gentle Giant Studios all got to right to Tim's eyes. And we were on that movie for a good 3 months. It's just basically, we had our mandate from Tim and Ken Ralston, the great Ken Ralston. Some of you will remember him from the visual effects team at ILM. He was directing Sony Imageworks at the time, so he was our liaison to the movie.
Mhm.
And our mandate was wide open. It was like, look, here's each character, go crazy. And I had a great team of people, David Igo, Kat Diaz, and some others. And we all just drew like crazy, some 3D modelers as well, and just sent stuff in. And it was fun to see our stuff on screen because it would always be amalgam of something. Tim had all these viz dev people working all over the world on the movie. And you'd see the movie, oh, there's our thing. There's like a percentage of our thing on that thing. And oh, we did that. And that was fun for us.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's got to be pretty weird where you're working on a Tim Burton movie and you never actually sit in a room with them. That's got to be but I mean, but you're used to that, right? I mean, since you're kind of in the business, there's a level of detachment from some of the other creators or people who are involved in a project of that scale.
Yeah, that's the way it is for a pre. I'm a pre person. Most of the stuff is, whether it's a storyboard for the sequences or concept design for props or wardrobe. As a pre person, the director, the significant creator will swan in, take a look, say yay, say nay, give us some mandates, give us some inspiration, and then take off back to deal with the many, many other departments they have to deal with. So if you're in principal, that's when you get daily dose of them and you see them at their best and their worst. And that's really fun. For those of us who, if you've never done live action, there's definitely three kinds of people: pre people, production principal people, and post people. And sometimes they mix, and directors are the kind of directors and producers mainly are the ones that go to all three places. And if you like principal, though, it's really a battlefield. It's really its own thing, just constant chaos, constant stuff you're having to deal with, flaming meteors coming in left and right. And it's super fun.
Do you have a preference as far as which?
Yes, definitely principal. I love the chaos and the immediacy and the problem solving of principal. I'm one of those people, when things are normal, I'm like, ooh, yawn. But if things are like nuts, then I'm like, then I calm down and I like focus. I just love functioning in those wacky environments.
See, I wouldn't do good in that environment at all. Because when people can see me stress out, I would think that, but so you must be able to keep your cool,
Yeah, no, there was this one time, there was this catastrophe. I was directing a short film and the DP had a problem and the gaffer had a problem, and we had a little huddle and they were really stressed out. And they were they were like jittering. They were so stressed out. And I said to them, okay, tell you what, here's what we're going to do. We're going to count to 3 and run like hell. They just laughed. And I said, no, seriously, here's what we'll do. And I just, made a decision and go. So it's just, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, no, then, yeah, I'm probably best in one or the other then, I don't think I could be in the trenches.
I think your calmness reminds me of a sound person. Sound people are incredibly calm. They're incredibly focused, and they like a lot of like calm around them, so because they have to hear everything, right?
Right.
They look at a piece and they see, they pick out what sounds they need, whether it's rain on a leaf or a car crashing or people whispering in the background. And so they like a lot of calm so that they can focus and make those sounds happen. I never met a sound person that was very loud. Ben Burt's a quiet guy, friends of mine in sound, EJ Holowicki from Skywalker Sound, very, very, calm, like steady people. It's fascinating.
That's pretty cool. So you have directed a bit. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about what you've done as a director?
Yeah, I directed hopefully my buddy Mark Altman, who produced the series that I directed on, will be visiting us today. Pandora for the CW network, I did 2 episodes on. That was live action sci-fi show, and it was super fun. I got to direct actors in a spaceship several times. I got to direct laser battle fights, laser gun fights. I got to direct monsters, alien monsters. It was the best, and all in Bulgaria. So I got to learn a little Bulgarian and see what Sofia was like. And I was shoot on location at some old Soviet monuments. That was really crazy, and it was just super fun. And I directed 2 animated features, neither of which were released, but as anyone knows from the industry, you work on many things that just never see the light of day. Mm-hmm. And they were great, real dream teams on both those animated features. Stephen Platt, you guys will know him, was a co-director on that with me, as well as Ian McCaig was on that movie. Craig Elliott.
Ian's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, they had a dream team. The producers really had no idea what a dream team they'd assembled. Chase Conley, Jay Oliva, Jojo Aguilar. I mean, really, Jay Baker. Just really phenomenal animation names. People that really, really they had literally a dream team. Well, we were putting together an amazing movie, but the producers were first timers. They really didn't know what they were doing, so it didn't end up happening. But
Well, that's too bad. It's funny you mentioned the Pandora, because when I was doing some Googling a few days ago, you came up on like a Pandora wiki, and even when I read it, I wasn't really clear what you had done. So you directed on it. Okay.
Yeah, I directed 2 episodes. I was asked to direct one. I was asked back for a second, which was really cool. And I also got to direct second unit. So I took a small splinter unit and drove around Sofia looking for really cool buildings to make into sci-fi environments. So that was exciting as well.
Wow, that's totally cool, man. I mean, but what qualifies you to be a director? How did you get into your first opportunity for something like that?
I've been doing it all along, but I didn't know. I had directed theater in college. I wrote a play and directed it. And I directed some animation for my good buddies at Neversoft, the greatest video game company that ever existed.
Absolutely.
And Joel Jewett was just the best video game executive I've ever met. And that was really fun. So the Spider-Man PSX game, did a bunch of storyboards for that. And me and my buddy Chad Finley put those movies together, the cutscenes. And that was really great. I think that was the first Spider-Man game on PlayStation. So that was a real milestone. And so kind of when you decide what you see. Every comic book artist is actually a director. You're just kind of choosing where the camera goes, where the subjects are, what the pace is. The difference is, can you work with actors, and can you handle multiple departments, and can you kind of accept the chaos? Comic book artists are very monk-like. We sit in alone and we draw these pictures all day long. We illuminate these manuscripts, literally. A director is someone who is out in the middle of everything. So it's a very extroverty type thing. Not that there aren't great introvert directors. I think Kubrick was an introvert. Peter Jackson's definitely an introvert. And so George Lucas. So it can happen. You just need good people around you that can handle all the extroverts. And so for me, it came about when a couple of my favorite filmmakers, who shall go unnamed, said to me, recommended I try directing. They said, I was working on Red Star in front of them, and I showed it to these guys, and they were like, yeah, have you ever considered directing? Because this is directing. It's just, so like making of the Red Star, it was all directing. I just kind of stopped at the storyboard part and the concept art part. It was, if we'd gone on, directing after that is taking those still images and making them into motion. And so on the set of Pandora, it was super fun because I got to put the two together. In fact, at one point, I wanted to design a special weapon for my episode. And so I brought in this really cool looking printer cartridge, and I stuck it on a gun handle, and I showed the concept art to the producer, and I said, hey, is this cool if I have props make this gun? He was like, yeah, that's great. Where'd you get that? I was like, it's a printer cartridge. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, and he knew, the producer knew back from the Star Wars days, you take junk and you glue it together. And because it's purpose built, it gains a really cool look from all that engineering, and you get to benefit from that. And so there's nothing like live action directing. It's the best.
Dang. Well, that's true with the way the Red Star was put together. You really were kind of in a production environment. I mean, whether it's pre or post, I mean, that was, you were definitely in it, because it was so much computer aided, brought together. One of the first books that was built that way. It was billed that way too. I mean, it was an interesting way that I remember being introduced to it. There was a lot of talk about how this was really an untraditional approach to creating comics with Red Star, and it had to have worked to its advantage, because I mean, you sold a lot of comics doing Red Star.
We did. We sold a lot of comics all over the world in 6 languages, and that's what got me to Weta Workshop in New Zealand, was the Red Star. They appreciated it. They saw it for what it was. They knew what I was doing, and they asked to meet me. And it was it was just a love affair. They work from the inside out. I like working from the inside out. What do I mean when I say that? Instead of just making something look cool, which is working from the outside in, we work from the inside out, which is, okay, why is this on camera? Like, where did it come from? It was built by someone. Who is this character from the inside? Why are they in this moment? And Weta works that way, which is why their work always has that extra layer of foundation to it. And I like working the same way. I want the reasons why everything is there. And all my favorite filmmakers do it the same way as well. Storytellers of any type.
So, well, I want to ask you what you've been working on in the last 6 months. Can you tell me?
For the last 6 months, I can actually say it for once.
Okay, because I remember you couldn't tell me last time what you were doing.
Yeah, so last time I still can't say what that was. That is
Okay.
going along beautifully. I can't say it's a Disney Plus show. That's all I can say. And I'm really, really super excited about it. And my friend who is the executive producer on that show is just the best. Chef's kiss. One of the greatest collaborators I've ever had the good fortune to work with. And that's coming along beautifully. However, when that season wrapped for us pre-people, right? The pre-people, okay, thanks pre-people, bye. So they're continuing to work on the show in post. And I moved on to Nickelodeon, where I was working for the last 6 months on Transformers Earthspark on season 2 of that show. So I was like, I get to talk about it. I get to say I was on a show. It was a great time. I'd never worked for Nickelodeon before. And it was a really fun show. My buddy Jay Baker got me that job. And it was nice to work on a family piece. As a dad, I've always worked on really grown-up stuff, really action adventure type, kind of PG-13 and up type stuff. Mm-hmm. So Earthspark is very family-oriented, very Frank Capra, very Ted Lasso, very sweet, which I love. I love that stuff. And so it was really fun to get to work on a sweet show and let that side of me kind of manifest in the work.
And what was your role with that?
Story art. So which is again, it's we're the first directors, right? So a story artist, a lot of directors come from story art. We have a script. It's just words. A director lets us know what they want at the beginning, but from that point on, it's up to us, and we decide where the camera goes. We pitch, we audition our feel for this scene based on what the needs of the story are, where the camera goes, where the characters go, how things are paced, what fight scenes are longer, what fight scenes are shorter. How the characters kind of handle these issues that the writers have thrown at them. Mm-hmm. And then we basically pitch these boards to production and everybody involved in the team at that level above the line. And they say, yay or nay. Most of the time I was on team 1, which was a great team. It was me, Cheska, and Mike Borkowski. And the 3 of them were great board artists. I'd worked with Mike on the Disney Plus show, and he's phenomenal. And Cheska Analao is also phenomenal. And so we didn't get a lot of notes. We would get additions to our scenes, but we didn't get major drastic rewrite type improvement notes. We were spot on. And the directors and producers had a really good sense of what they needed from us, and it really informed us clearly. So it was a really easy collaboration. It was good fun. Fast. It was fast. The Disney show, we had time, right? Disney was like, look, we're Disney, take the time, get it right. Nickelodeon is like, get it done.
Here's the date we want it.
Get it done. Be excellent. Get it done.
So how is the issues with the writers strike and all those other issues? Has that affected your work at all?
So far, no. But it definitely will. I as a union person myself, I completely support what they're doing. It's absolutely necessary to update the agreements. I wish that all laws had a mechanism by which a group of people could say, hey, time to stop and update all the laws, because there's this technology now and we need to make new laws about it. That's how civilization stays functioning, is somebody pops up with this new technology. They think it's the best thing since the wheel, and they just want to put it everywhere because they have a very commercial interest in this technology that they've invested in. But it's like, slow down. Very cool technology. Congratulations. Here's your cookie. But now we got to write laws for this technology. So and that's all the unions are doing. They're like, look, we've been doing this since the beginning of time. And now there's this technology whereby a bunch of executives think they understand how they can profit from it, but they don't. They think they do, but they don't. And so it's up to the unions to say the actual practitioners of story to slow everything down and be like, look, we need a fair deal. You guys think you know what you're doing, but you don't. You're just excited because you see money, dollar signs. And let's face it, fiction is humanity's preferred way of learning about life. When the pandemic happened and millions of people were dying across the planet, where did they go? They went to fiction, right? You read your books. They watched Netflix like crazy. We watched Ted Lasso. We watched television every night. And fiction was the comfort food that gets us through that mentally. And so it's a really important functioning aspect of society. It's a kind of medicine that no doctor can give you. And the people that make it need to be the ones who profit from it. I don't go to a baseball game to watch the owners. I go to a baseball game to see the players. And so those players need to be compensated.
Yeah, can't argue with you at all. I mean, that's good that it hasn't affected you in any way. I mean, I think clearly it's we're next week at San Diego. We were talking about that before the show started. I think we're going to see a huge impact at San Diego, which will be interesting for those who can go. And of course, you and I aren't going, but I'm sure I'll hear all about it.
I picked the perfect San Diego not to go, I'll say.
Yeah, well, one person I talked to said, well, without people in Hall H, it might actually make the hall even more crowded, right? But or most people won't come. But I can't see how they don't. I think it might actually be worse without having Hall H to just occupy whatever the size of that crowd is, throughout the entire duration of the show.
I would love to. I would love to kind of do a play-by-play of San Diego. I've always kind of wanted to do this. I guess I have this secret urge to be a comic book journalist or something. And I think someone should really do a live stream, like a Howard Cosell play-by-play of San Diego and what its effect is given these strikes. I think it'd be fascinating.
I think, it will be interesting to hear after the fact, because I know a lot of collectors going. I know a lot of art dealers that are going, and they all, no one's really concerned or anything about it. But I'm curious to see how it's going to wind up. It'll be different. I mean, the actors won't be there now, so there's just not the same. It's not going to be the same show. Maybe that's good. It'll become a little bit more of a comic show for at least a year.
I love when stuff gets weird. As I said before, this is how that kicks in, right? I love when stuff gets thrown out of its rhythm, and we get to see what happens as a result. And new things can happen, and I like to be open to surprise, and we'll see what happens. I want to say hi to my buddy Carlos Mendoza III, a former student of mine, and who runs the Artisan Social Club. Carlos is a great guy, and they can't call in, right, Bill?
No, they can't. Unfortunately.
Okay, no worries.
Unless you gave him the link that I sent you, he could always pop in and say hi.
Right on.
No problem with that. We have a little bit of time before we get to the art sale side of things, but
that's cool.
Yeah. Not sure how to chat. Well, he's chatting. Yeah, did you open up that second window? So yeah.
Yeah, actually, he does have the link. Maybe he can pop if you don't mind. Yeah,
no, I don't mind at all.
The studio.
I'll just sit back and watch.
You can ask
I did want to ask you because you've done so much work in film. I mean, do you get the itch to do sequential storytelling in comics again?
So much so. I've been working for the last 2 years with a great editor, a veteran of the industry, Chris Simon, and we've been putting together this story called Cthulhu Town, which is a Lovecraftian inspired story. That a lot of work on that. It's all over my wall, like some big conspiracy theory. All I'm missing is the red yarn. But no, it's a really, really fun story. I was introduced to the whole Cthulhu mythos during my first days playing Dungeons and Dragons as a 16-year-old, and thought it was fascinating. And I've never gotten a chance to really do a Lovecraftian story, so that's been just a blast. And so yeah, I would love to. It's a financial thing. I got to get the numbers to work, and it is wonderful doing television and film. But I do keep my hand in sequential art. Another student of mine, Ellen Boner, is in the chat. Hi, Ellen. Ellen's a comic book writer and I've kind of said, hey, you can write some comics she's actually a really talented novelist. And I've kind of introduced her to some people in the comic book world because, comics is a kind of a fun place. She's a super geek too. She's a DM. So comics are a wonderful place to also be a storyteller. It hasn't hurt Neil Gaiman and his career as a novelist to have done comics and such and so forth. So,
yeah, Carlos needs the link that I sent you in that email.
Yeah.
So feel free to forward that.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Well, that's good. I mean, I would think it's hard to not want to go back, to that kind of storytelling. It's got to be fun because when you're doing film work, I mean, you've got, I assume, other people around you. It's a little bit more social. A little bit, even if it's just one or two other creators, nearby that you can hang out with. But I don't know. I would have to think that given your history, that you'd probably want to get more involved with comics again at some point.
I would love to. It's really a question of just dollars and time, right? Mm-hmm. When the money is just it's sustainable in television and film and comics. I really admire anyone working in comics today because it's cost of living has not gone down, and
page rates have not gone up.
Page rates have not gone up. So it's like, my goodness, it's really, really tough. And I just appreciate the heck out of them. And I would love to figure it out. Whether it's a crowdfund or something, I would love Cthulhu Town, and I would, as much as I would love to see it as a show, I really, really, as a comic book person from the time I was 19, I really can see it quite clearly as a sequential art, and I'd really love to do it that way first. But got to find a publisher that, and that knows how to make a deal and knows how to make a deal given today's situation and not based on some old-fashioned ideas.
We'll see if Carlos comes in here or not. But that's good. That's good because when I get to handle all the art now, right? So I've got a stack of your art here, and your pencils are just beautiful. I know why when with Red Star, the pencils were enough. And one big question for me. Oh, and I see Carlos has just popped in here. So I'll hold my question for later. We're up and one big question. Hello, Carlos.
Carlos.
What's up, guys?
There we go.
Oh, you'll need to mute
Carlos Bill Cox. Oh yeah, you got to mute your
the YouTube.
Carlos.
What's up, guys?
Then you won't hear it in the background.
Carlos Bill Cox. Bill Cox. Carlos.
Nice to meet you, Carlos.
Good to meet you. I'm very envious of your background, Bill.
Well, I was just gonna say I'm envious of that monstrous Hulk that you've got back there. That thing is huge.
Thanks. Yeah, it's like humongous. I got it when I was at Jack's Pacific. We were doing a bunch of like toy stuff, and then somebody just said, "Hey, you want this one?" And I've been eyeballing it for a long time, and I was like, finally end up getting it. So I was like happy about it.
Wow! Congratulations!
Yeah, really exciting conversation. I'm really like excited to hear Christian talking about all this cool stuff, and like thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
So Carlos, tell them about Artisan Social Club.
Oh wow, yeah. So Artisan Social Club, we started back in California. I'm now in New Jersey, and we started back in 2018. And basically what we are doing is gathering industry professionals, Christian being one of them, mentors into the club. And what we do is we help out students that are struggling to get into the industry, especially when they go to school and they don't learn really the foundation of real world experience. We come in and we pretty much just give them some insight as to what exactly to expect, during their portfolio reviews, whether it's an interview. If you're a freelancer, we help you with, information about how to put a proper invoice together, a proper estimate, contracts, that sort of stuff. So a lot of the mentors come in and we really help out where schools aren't really focusing a lot of their energy on. So again, it's coming from real world professional experience. So a lot of the mentors come in and really just donate their time and really help out some kids that are really, getting into the industry, and even those that are finishing high school that are just going into school that are really in need of direction. So what we do is we come in, we do some workshops called the Artist Night Out. And what we do is we set a panel up and a couple of industry artists to come in and do some demonstrations for them and ask questions, Q&As. And we really kind of dive into a deep understanding of what a career in the industry is like. And I think it's more of a real world experience for them. So it's amazing. It's really great. And it's helping a lot of kids out that are, even kids that can't make it to school, kids that can't afford to go to school. So we really like to bring a lot of that insight to people who can't, unfortunate, situations that they're in. So yeah, it's amazing organization for sure.
Cool. And Carlos has been good enough to include me in it. And I look forward to, I love teaching. I wasn't able to go to art school. I'm completely self-taught because I couldn't afford to go to any one of those big universities.
Same here.
So yeah, right. And so we're both working professionals in the business because of programs like this. So I just want to thanks for coming by, Carlos, and saying hi, and thank you, Bill, for giving them some time.
Yeah, and Christian, thank you so much for taking on the mentorship, man. We really, you're one of my favorite teachers, and I think it's an honor for the organization to have you as part of the mentorship program, man. It's like you were one of my favorites, and always will be one of my favorite teachers, man. I'm excited to have you on.
Thanks, brother. Where can they find you on Instagram?
That's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah, Carlos 3 Art. So it's Carlos, the number 3, and then art. Follow me there, and then artisansocialclub.official is our handle on Instagram. And come check us out. And we're excited. We're having actually a live session right after I hang up here. I got to run upstairs because we have another session going upstairs because we have a bunch of interns coming in. We're going to be teaching them some fun stuff as well. So thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. And Christian, again, I'll see you, brother.
Yeah, man. Take care.
Thank you, Carlos.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bill.
No problem. That's I was just going to ask him if there's a website. So everything's done through Instagram as far as how they hook everybody up. I mean, that's something that's sorely needed. Obviously, I think I went to art school. They didn't teach you anything about how to be a professional, how to market yourself, how to handle do your taxes, what to expect. What would be handle yourself in an interview, you name it. I mean, they don't give you any of that real world advice. They just kind of move you along. Okay, you're a good enough artist, you can go now. So that's the hard stuff, really. If you're going to stay successful, you really have to have some smarts business wise to not let it frustrate you.
Absolutely. And so it's been great when I met Carlos at Studio Arts downtown, a great school. My buddy Eric Hulsman runs it. I was teaching there for 10 years, graphic novels and all these things. And I made sure to have a part of that curriculum be real life stories, how to get in, because that's what the kids want to know. That's what young people want to know. Like, they got all this passion, all this stories, but how do I actually get it seen? You can get it seen these days just by posting online, but then, like you said, all the other stuff, talking business and knowing what to say, what not to say, and how to make them comfortable, how to make the money comfortable is such a huge part of it, right? You got to be able to persuade them that you are worth their investment and that you can deliver what you need to deliver in order for them to continue and profit from that investment. It's a huge part of it. No one teaches it.
Right. And networking too. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, and I'm pretty sure that we talked about this a bit in the first interview, but a lot of times you get jobs just from, the people I mean, that refer you to another job, like the one you just mentioned with Nickelodeon, was from a friend of a friend, brought you in. And so, I think that's true almost in anything. We talk about that as art collectors. The more friends you have in the hobby, the better, but it's true in business as well, especially in creative fields like you're in. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat there, but but that's awesome. And, so the question I was going to ask you, because I keep staring at it since it's right over your shoulder, is that you've given the opportunity to buy the artwork to the image that's behind you, and
oh my gosh, that's right, isn't it? That's the cover. That is the cover to issue 1.
Right, and so I've been staring at it, and that's all I could think about. It's like, so what brought you to this point where you decided you would, see if anybody else was interested in owning the art to the first cover to Red Star?
It was honestly, Bill, you're the inspiration. I had such a great time in the last auction. I was like, you know what? If there's any place I know that this will find a good home, it's with Bill. You got a great. It's been so great since last time. I've been on comicartfans.com since, selling pieces to really serious collectors who really appreciate the work. And I was like, you know what? I can let this out into the world. It helps me out financially. It gets it out there. Right now, it's just sitting in portfolios. So although I will say, and I've scanned all the pieces, and myself and again, Chris Simon and the great David Hyatt, a very, very renowned marketing person, is helping me put together. We're working together to put together the art of the Red Star. We've never done an art book that's coming up on the 25th anniversary of the Red Star. And so we're going to be doing the art of the Red Star. And I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about it, but this is a pretty special audience. So it's too late now. Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, it's been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and kind of meeting about it on Monday with a publisher that I can't say, but it's happening. We're going to crowdfund it, and I'm really looking forward to getting that out there. And that's to answer a question. It's just been inspiring to the idea of serious collectors getting a hold of this stuff, and people who I know, if I need a scan of it, I can get it scanned from them. I've already got all the scans anyway, but if I ever needed it back, I could contact them. Thanks to Comic Art Fans, we stay in touch. So I really feel like I'm not losing it. I'm just kind of letting it be appreciated in an expanded way.
Well, cool. I was just surprised when I saw it in the list, and then because I didn't get a chance to open the package until Thursday night. And
I know.
Is it really? It says Red Star 1. Is it really going to be Red Star 1? And it was. So it was just a little shocking.
Yeah, no, it was. And you'll notice that, of course, it's just the number one piece. When they see it, it's just the figure. I'll get out of the way. It's just that figure, which is the way the Red Star was done. It's a composite production style. So that 3D model was made by Alan Coulter, and the final color was done by Byron Tallman, Nom de Guerre Snakebite. And it was a team job, and we stuck it together and created this effect of this environment. And that's how the whole book was done. But so what's for sale today is him, which was Image Comics, #1, June of 2000. On the cover of Diamond Previews, my only cover of Diamond Previews. Thanks again to Image Central for that. And so yeah, it's a pretty historic little piece. I interested to see if it goes. And I want to say hi to my friend Alex Druin, a helicopter pilot, a serviceman who served in, my gosh, Iraq and Afghanistan, and a big Red Star fan, and sent me these really cool pictures of him. There he is. It's really cool pictures. I get so excited I start scatting. I can't even talk. Really cool pictures of him in service, in his rig, and introduced the Red Star to General David Petraeus.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, totally, really cool. It sent me a bunch of really cool swag from his unit. So I just want to say, Alex, thanks for coming and thanks for all the cool stuff. And I hope to get out to see some Blackhawks this sometime soon.
So when you're out and about, I mean, do you take a lot of photos? I mean, so you have some kind of reference that you might use?
Absolutely. I'm a nut with photo reference.
I had a feeling.
Ask Chris on Cthulhu Town. All this 1920. I'm driving around Hollywood. I'm all, come on, Chris, it's 4 a.m. Let's go drive around Hollywood and get photographs with no traffic around of these 1920s buildings that are still around before they get knocked over. I'm a photo reference crazy person. I was invited onto a submarine by a couple of servicemen, a couple of sailors that were like, hey, we're Red Star fans. You want to visit our submarine? It's getting decommissioned. I was like, yeah. This was in San Diego. So I gave up a really cool dinner with another friend of mine. But when do you get on a submarine? So went down the submarine, took pictures where I could. Obviously, it was being decommissioned, so it wasn't a lot of top secret stuff, but it's still tricky. So, and it's still fascinating. I didn't realize a submarine is like a transformer, essentially, right? When you have to shoot missiles, the whole decks collapse and everything. It's like it's a transformer essentially, on the inside at least, and and that was really cool to learn. So that's the kind of stuff. I love the fact that people serving in the military love the Red Star. If you're writing a war story, you want military people to like it. That's one of your audiences you're hoping appreciates it, because you're like, okay, if they like it, then I must be doing something right. And that continues to be something I really appreciate. My dad was a serviceman. All my family back east are military and law enforcement, and I'm from the branch of the family that we're the West Coast artist type. So other than my dad, who was an artilleryman in the Army, none of us served. But I always get along with military people. I appreciate the fact that they literally put their flesh and bone on the line for other people.
No, that's very admirable. And it's giving you some other opportunities, right? I mean, to get into a sub and all that. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it shows you the reach that Red Star had. That it brought in people who maybe weren't everyday comic book readers, right? I mean, that's incredible. So you are doing an art book. That's cool. I'm sure you'll at some point you'll pass along some information for me to share with comic art fans so we can help you promote it.
Yeah, I have this meeting on Monday, and I'll write to you. I'll send you the dirt, the inside dirt right away. Let you know. I'll keep you posted as well, because it would be. I'm really excited about it. Like I said, we've never done one. There are thousands of drawings. I've got them all scanned. I have to thank IDW. Years ago, when we did the collected versions of the Red Star through IDW, we did reprints. They did really nice hardcover editions. They made the offer. They're like, hey, maybe we'll do an art book. So bring all the Red Star art and we will scan it at high res. And they did. I'm talking about a truckload of drawings, because again, it's all composites. So there are images of the Red Star where, you'll see a crowd scene of 15 guys. That's 15 drawings.
Right.
And then it's composited into the CG. And Byron Tallman, Snakebite, did a great job of, we'd sit together in Photoshop. And the first time I told him how we're going to do it, I said, I brought all these drawings, and I hadn't communicated clearly to him. I had failed leadership-wise to communicate to him what he was signing up for. And so I brought all these drawings, and some of them were huge. And we had to scan them in 3 pieces because I was still figuring it out as well. Hey, maybe draw it all, scannable. But he's like, what do you know how these are supposed to go together? And I'm all, I mean, we'll figure it out, right? We're it'd be like jazz. We'll have all these drawings. We'll compose something together, and we'll go from there. So that'll all be in the Art of the Red Star, all that process. And it's fun because a lot of those drawings I did very, very large, and they were by the time they were composited into the final image, the needs of the story demanded that they become quite small, which was always great because you get a lot of detail out of the drawing. But I'd sit there going, I didn't need to take as many hours on that drawing. I could have done that much more economically.
That's true. And that's kind of where a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but several artists are working in that same way today. So, but you were probably one of the people who kind of paved the way for that. Where people could assemble these stories after the fact. I mean, we see Howard Chaykin. That's the only way he works, right? Now he draws small characters on pages and samples them and probably reuses them. And but you guys kind of started that. But I hear you on the idea that you could have saved time and been a little bit more economical in creation. But the detail was there, and the good thing was that when Red Star came out, the printing had kind of got to a point where it could actually show off the fact that there was enough detail. It wasn't like comics from the 80s or 90s where it just would not have translated very well into to see that level of detail. Because I had Adam Kubert on back in April, and he draws on things that are literally like 24 by 18, because he loves the fact that when it gets reduced, there's so much more detail in it, and printing today can handle that. And and he just enjoys the fact that it just looks better, right? I mean, and that's cool. I mean, it's back to technology in certain ways have made our lives easier or better, and put out a better product at the end of the day.
When we get Cthulhu Town set at a publisher, I'm going to do I'll be writing it mostly and doing layouts. I'm hoping to get this fantastic artist from Spain to do it. And I really hoping for it to be him. I'm going to do everything I can to get him, because he's amazing. And but I don't have time to be drawing it. However, once the main series wraps up its first run, I'm going to be doing a one-shot. And on that one-shot, my thought is, actually, I should ask you about this. My thought is to do it on the old-fashioned like 2-up type boards. Do you have any of those in your collection? 2-up boards from the old days?
Only about 2 or 3. Yeah, I mean, because usually the stuff I want that's still twice up, I can't afford. But,
right.
But I've handled a lot of it. Yeah.
What are some of the pieces you'd like that are 2-up?
I'd like some early Kirby stuff. That would be nice.
2-up, huh?
Well, it depends. What era. Like I have a Kirby Thor page that isn't twice up, but I think about 8 issues prior to that, it would have been, had I gotten it, but they're just a little bit more sought after, at that point. I think, it's larger art, and typically that isn't always the norm that they cost more, but, when we're talking about that era, I mean, it is. So there's a couple, I'd love to get an early Kirby Thor page, just because it would be just spectacular to have something at that scale.
Yeah, I've been really falling in love with that era. Again, as research for Cthulhu Town, the short stories I've done for Cthulhu Town have been mainly 9-grid, like old-fashioned 9-grid type pages, which is very different than Red Star, right? Red Star was like, Lawrence of Arabia. It was all double-page spreads mostly and montage. But for Cthulhu Town, since it takes place in the 1920s, I've been like looking into retro ways to make it really old-timey. And the 9-grid is amazing. I've been really enjoying the storytelling options that you get from the 9-grid, and I can see, and doing that 2-up would be fantastic, because
if you can work that way, I mean, I think that would be great, because it kind of matches the time period, and also, right, the 9-grid, a 6-grid, or a 4-grid, where they're all equal sizes. I always talk about that on the channel. I think those are like the hardest ones to work with, but Kirby pulled them off, almost effortlessly, and I always love it. I mean, I love a great, like a four panel page just blows my mind. That you would think that 4 panels that are the same size, shape and size, and yet it conveys the story so well. You compare that to like like something you did with Red Star, or something that Neil Adams would have been doing, where he's just, all the panels are coming in at different angles and things, and then you go back to that traditional 4, 6, or 9 panel layout, and they just hold up. I mean, and I think anybody who can make that work is just I don't want to say you're a magician, but you are a true artist to be able to pull off that. But I'd love to see it that way. I think you look back to like when Watchmen went and kind of followed a very specific kind of pattern in the storytelling. It made it fun. I mean, the panel layout, it all goes back to sequential storytelling and how you choose to lead the reader through things. But the panel layout, whether people know it or not, it will rekindle that kind of nostalgia feel, I think, in them, even if they aren't really aware it's a 9-grid layout.
Right.
Why am I feeling? Why is this helping me kind of get into the mindset of a Cthulhu story that takes place at in a different era or something? So I totally would like to see you do it twice up.
Cheers, man. And I just showed the layouts for issue 1 to my buddy Jamie Rich, another great editor from the industry, veteran of the wars, was editor-in-chief at DC and is now at IDW, working with Chris as the group editor. And I showed him the layouts for the first issue, and he had a great note. He's like, listen, what about that first sequence? It's that very first sequence. Do you really need any dialogue in there? You've got your captions. You can make those, and I'm going to be using silent film type captions for a lot of the time. It'll be like just really visual, because silent movies are literally comic books, right? There's a panel and there's a caption, and there's a panel and there's a caption. So it's been really fun researching that and adapting it. And I was like, yeah, no, I've been looking it over since then. It was such a great note. Like, no, it should, as for a comic that is so much about the silent film era, I should start with the silent film as much as possible, really lean into that. And then, of course, it turns out that's a dream, and we go full color once we get to Hollywood, and we go from there. But yeah, it'll be fun to really kind of lean into that.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with there. No, I think that's great. And that's the fun stuff with, that you can do in comics that you can't always do in other mediums, whether it's even in film. I mean, you have a little bit more control over all facets of what people are seeing. And again, whether they're aware of it or not, you're kind of leading them in a direction that, what it means to, be following a particular pattern like that. But yeah, that's exciting. That really is. That's cool. And that's what I think has always excited me about comic books and art collecting, is it's just getting to see what you want to do, and as a creator, put on a page for me to appreciate. It's just so different. At any rate,
and like you said, with the 4, the 6, and the 9, all the interest, the reader subconsciously knows that it's going to be coming at this steady pace. So they don't need to worry about how they have to read the page. They know that all the information is going to be inside that box. And so therefore you can do what Dave Gibbons did, right? You can show that you can make things significant that are in the corners, that are small. But, I said, there's that radio again, or there's that, Ozymandias doing this thing again, or there's Rorschach doing this thing again. And it's, Alan Moore and him just really, that was always kind of a bucket list thing of mine, to do a 9-grid story. And I did it. The first 6-page short story for Cthulhu Town is all 9-grid. And I was just like, okay, this is it. This is a fantastic thing.
Well, that's great. And when it feels right, you just have to go with it. I mean,
yeah, totally. Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I was just reading through, but Alberto, you don't always have to scan your twice up art. You can take a photograph of it and post it to Cap when it's a little bit too big to scan. I get that. But for something like that, Christian, I mean, is that stuff that kind of comes back to my original question about with Red Star, this stuff feels like it's time to sell stuff. When you're in the middle of a project like that, I mean, do you tend to kind of not want to sell things when it's kind of gestating and you're still working through it? Is it something like you let it go after it's all done and it's out of your mind?
It's a great question. It's so subjective, right? I know that there's some pieces I don't mind selling them right away, and there's some pieces I just like having them just to look at them, just to inspire myself later. And so that's really kind of the hard part of letting them go. Is there's times when I definitely I'll show them to class. I'll bring them into my classes and say, here's what I was doing on this page. And I can't do that if I sell them. I can do it, but now digitally you can. Since everything's scanned, I can do it digitally. But there is something, of course you do lose that. Putting it in someone's hands is a thing, right? So being able to take this drawing and put it in someone's hands and go and talk to them about the detail of it is a thing, and it's a wonderful thing. And I've seen it have an effect on the students. So, but that's another thing that like, well, if I'm selling it. But at the same time, it's pros and cons, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, well, it's because the art that you sent us today, some of it's older, some of it's more semi-current, I think. But yeah, I always like to find that that's a question I ask most artists. When is the right time to sell something?
Yeah, when is the right? Yeah, it's so subjective, and it's so like for me it's a mood thing. For me, it's like I'm not ready to let it go yet. I'm a softie.
Well, why don't we start looking at the art for sale? I mean, I know there's plenty of things to talk about while we're looking through here. So let me give everybody the ground rules on the sale today. I think most people are probably familiar with them if they've hung out for any of our shows since I've taken over shipping. But claims will happen in the chat. They're not emailed like in the old days. You just have to type the word claim and the lot number for the piece you want. And as long as you're first, you are the one who will get it. You will email me after the show, bill@comicartfans.com, if you've picked up any of the artworks. We expect payment within 48 hours. If you're able to pay with Zelle or Venmo, there's no fee. But if you need to use a credit card through PayPal or other, there is a 4% charge on US and 5.5% on international. Shipping isn't included with the art sales here, so domestic shipping is at $30, international is at $65. I'm handling all of the fulfillment of the art sales today. I've got all the art in hand, so I'll be getting to handle it and show you. And I promise I will not mishandle the art like we sometimes see those guys on our Wednesday night show when they grapple with the art. Sometimes that will not happen today. But yeah, and the thing is, you can claim artwork at any time. As you know, there's going to be 22 lots that you're going to see today. 17 of them are new. 5 are from pieces that didn't sell the first show that we did. And then we've reduced the prices on those, and I've kind of mixed them up. I've kind of kept the artwork grouped by title or whatnot. So like, we're going to see some Superman art first, then some Star Wars art, some Dungeons and Dragons, then some Red Star, and then Electra the Hand. And I think we've got a few pieces in most of those that didn't sell the first time around. So they'll be in with the new art as well. So unless anybody has any questions, I will just hop right in and we'll start talking about the art. Because obviously, like I just mentioned, we're going to look at some Superman art first. And I don't remember when we were showing these the last time if we talked a lot about the project. I know it was I think it was the only time was on this annual that you worked on it. But we'll take a look at this slot here. So this is we got 4 pieces from Superman Annual 7. This is page 37, priced at $300. And it's on 11x17 board. I think pretty much all the art that we're going to see today, except for a few, are on 11x17. So how did you get involved with doing a Superman story?
One of my great early editors was a guy named Dan Thorsland. Dan Thorsland was at Dark Horse in Portland, and then he moved over to DC, went to New York, and worked with Mike Carlin, and said, "Hey, I really think Chris Gossett I think he should do Superman." And I had a great time, and I got to do, at this time, Kal-El was in various manifestations. There was a long-haired Kal-El and different Kal-Els, and I got to do classic Superman, which I really appreciated. I'm an old-fashioned type dude, raised on old-timey movies, so this was really kind of my vibe. And I got to do a Dr. Occult story, so there was a Tommy gun. This is almost like a really cool foreshadowing of Cthulhu Town. A lot of Cthulhu Town takes place in warehouses on the waterfront. There's Tommy guns. There's women in hats. This character right here is like a precursor to Isadora, the lead character of Cthulhu Town. So it's really kind of eerie how prescient this page is, considering what's happening now. And it's one of the nicer pages. The great Walt Simonson did the cover for this annual, and it was a good time. Another funny thing about this page is I drew it on the set of the Power Rangers movie, the first one in Australia. I was a friend with several members of the cast, and what my good buddy Paul Schreier said, "Hey man, I got a buddy ticket. You want to come to Australia and hang out with on the show? We can work on some stuff we've been working on." So I flew down to Australia and did this in my hotel room. I was in my early 20s. It was kind of a party all night, draw all day kind of thing in my callow freelancer days. I would never do that again. But in your 20s, you got so much energy. So that's how this work happened.
How do you get a buddy ticket?
Right? They were a thing. I don't know. I'm sitting there drawing Superman, in my studio. I get the phone rings, and buddy ticket popped right up.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I need friends with buddy tickets to Australia. That'd be awesome.
Seriously.
And that's true. I mean, I went and read I remember reading the story before we did the last sale, and that makes a whole lot of sense for your kind of referencing Cthulhu Town, because it has kind of a horror feel throughout it. So this one's lot 1, priced at $300, and that one's still available. And we have another. This is a new one. This is from same book, page 43. I'll go ahead and show the slide for that.
Yep, and here's more tentacles. So again, the Cthulhu aspect, the prescience for Cthulhu is there. This is my favorite shot of Superman bouncing some energy off his chest. I got the Kirby crackles going. And it was the first time I was able to do Kirby crackles. I got the S curl going. It's it's a really fun piece.
Yeah, I think when we were doing this the last time, we had a sketchbook theme going on a calf that had tentacles. So every time I'd see a piece with tentacles in it, it reminded me that I needed to post something to our sketchbook. But now something like this, when you were working on it, so you were doing all the pencils while you were traveling?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was in a hotel room, a really nice hotel room in King's Cross in Sydney, Australia.
Mhm.
And so they would go shoot, they were working on set all day, and I'd be up in the hotel getting room service and drawing Superman. I was spoiled. It was spoiled. I was like, I definitely knew and appreciated what was happening in the moment. I was like, this is super cool. I'm really privileged. This is awesome. And I actually worked in Australia. Earlier in this story, there's a shot of a globe. This council of magicians is looking at the Earth, or I'm sorry, is looking at Krypton as it blows up. And as Krypton blows up, I stuck a little, it's shattering. So all the continental tectonic plates are kind of shattering, and I snuck in a Australian shaped one.
Well, that's cool. That just to put a little bit of your what you're looking at during the day into the artwork. That's
right.
Cool. Well, let's take a look at this now. Now, lots 3 and 4 are ones from the last show, so people might remember seeing these. Let's see here. So lot 3, this one's priced at $200. This is kind of a Clark and the team at in the office, right?
Yep, so Clark and Lois, and like retro Jimmy, super retro Jimmy.
Yeah,
Olsen with the freckles and everything, and of course Lois is very influenced by Uma Thurman from Pulp Fiction, which had just come out.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, totally. I was like, hey, little influence there. Timely comics. And Jimmy's got his sweater on.
And his freckles.
Freckles. Little Jimmy.
Now, in terms of your professional career at that point, how many, because this is around 94, 95, I believe.
That's right. Yep.
So what had you done professionally leading up to this?
Before this, I had done Tales of the Jedi issues 1 and 2. And that's where I invented the double-bladed lightsaber and a bunch of different alternative lightsabers. That was the first for the Star Wars galaxy. I was given a free rein to design the Time of the Old Republic. I designed Onderon and the Beast, the first guy to get a crack at the Beasts of Onderon, which showed up they're on a Disney Plus show now, though. I can't remember. It was Bad Batch. Bad Batch opens in season 1 on Onderon. So that was a trip for me to see the Beasts of Onderon and Onderon, having been the first person to design and visualize that planet for the galaxy. And had a great time doing it. Really enjoyed Star Wars. And Star Wars and Superman, have a lot of commonality. They're paragon stories, right? Jedis are paragons. Superman's a paragon of virtue. And so it was kind of easy to go from these do-gooder, from one set of do-gooders to another. That's what was going on at the time. I played a lot of paladins in D&D.
Did you really?
Oh, for sure.
I always went for more of the anybody that could wield a battle axe was usually my path of getting through a room. I was never delicate.
Heck yeah.
Yep. Well, so that one's out there too, 3, and then lot 4. This is priced at $275. It's on 11 by 17. Of course, this is page 19 from the same issue, and this one has Superman melting a lot of those tentacles in this one.
Totally. Kal-El has finally worked it out, and it really got beat up. Dr. Occult was trying to warn him, look, your powers aren't going to work here. This is another dimension, and so Superman really gets beaten up in this story.
Yeah, he's got a lot of welts on him in that one.
Right? He's so beaten up.
Now, I forget on this one, inking.
I can't remember who inked it.
It
definitely wasn't me. If someone could Google the Superman Annual 7.
Double check that before I hopped in here. But Rom says that he was always a human paladin as well. So. But yeah, no, it's a nice page. Some Zipatone on here, just a little bit.
Yeah, little Zipatone back. It's a blast from the past.
Yeah, well, we're seeing it. It's having a resurgence, as you probably.
Is it really?
Yeah, there's some artists that just love doing them. Even they'll take them to cons too, and do their work there and put some Zipatone on it. So it's interesting. People aren't entirely used to it, especially newer collectors that only get commissions. or con sketches, they're, sometimes in shock a little bit,
Yeah.
where they're not quite sure what they're getting. It looks like a print to them sometimes. So, it is a little bit of an educational process, I think. But I mean, I think it's cool, to have it come back.
Yeah,
I always
definitely.
appreciated it. All right, now we're going into something a little different on these ones, because the first two pieces here are these are the ones that are on that heavy. I know it's not vellum. Remind me what this material is.
Speaking of pressed down tones, made by the same company, Graphics puts out a medium called Duralar, and most of the Red Star is drawn on Duralar. Some of it was drawn on comic book board, but most of it is on Duralar. And it was, the reason why is because we were doing that compositing with all the 3D vehicles and military vehicles, and so back then it was much easier to print out a rendering of the 3D environment with 3D vehicles and then put Duralar over it because it's translucent, and I would draw in the correct perspective. And this is one of the things that was the secret sauce of why our stuff integrated so well. I drew every figure, but we rendered almost every environment and brought them together in Photoshop. And the reason why that worked so well is because we did a year of R&D. Myself and Alan Coulter and Snakebite did a year of R&D making that composite system work. And it was thanks in large part to Duralar. Another great thing about Duralar was I wasn't crazy about inking. I wanted to just have the pencils work. And so I used old-fashioned General's drafting pencils from the 40s, I think, because they had a really inky look. And I put down color race blue first for my roughs, and then I would go over with graphite with that really, really old-fashioned basic dark graphite. And it really made a nice, just worked. Just, we got a look out of it.
Sure. No,
This
I mean,
piece, this is a Star Wars piece. I was after the Red Star, I was hired by a bunch of different people to do stuff. They love the Red Star. They wanted me to do stuff on their concept design job. And this is from the Star Wars show that was never made. George Lucas, for a long time, was trying to do a Star Wars show, a television show. And for many, many different reasons, it didn't happen. But at the time, there were a lot of artists from all over the world submitting designs. And this is one of those designs.
All right, and we've got two of these. We'll show the first one here. And the scans were just tough to do. That's why I'm going to hold this up. I've got a whiteboard to put it on too. But it's on 9x12 Duralar. So this is a Jedi illustration. And I mean, it's beautiful. I know it looks a little hard there. I'm just going to switch over to my screen here just so you can see it. But the price is $250 on it. I'll even make myself full screen. It'll be easier. But here is how it looks. It's just almost impossible to scan. And I know when I opened these on Thursday, I talked with everybody. I'm like, I know I'm going to have a hard time getting these to look exactly like they do. But I mean, you can tell that clearly the Duralar also has a tooth to it, which makes it really easy to pencil on.
Yeah.
But like if I pull it up a little bit, you can see that it is a bit, it's a bit transparent. But when you see it with a white background, it's stunning. And this is, like you said, pretty much all of Red Star was done on the same material. That's right.
And this character, the mandate from the company was, open it up. We're going to do Jedi are not all the same personality. Some Jedi are more, are different. So explore different kinds of Jedi. Also, they were already thinking about video games. And so, let's think about characters from different cultures, with different, traditions, weapon-wise. She has a very Art Deco lightsaber down there, as you can see. And so it's just really trying some stuff.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. And again, it's back to, I can see why you wanted to stick with the pencil only, right? I mean, that's, you didn't need to really, do it in a traditional inked version. I mean, it's just, the pencils are just stunning.
Yeah, concept design. And, I could always turn it when I was submitting it to a client, I could always grayscale it or, make it look like black line. Just capture that black, just convert it to black for if the blue threw them off at all. But they usually liked the blue for some reason. A little touch of color.
Right. And I think, well, we'll see that, I think, in a later piece where it was, where it wasn't all blue, or some graphite was used in it as well as the blue pencil. All right, so this next one, it's the same size, and I'll show the scan first because it's got the price and the lot number on it. So it's lot 6, priced at $200. It is on 9x12 Duralar as well, and again, done for the same show.
Yep, done for the same show. They were thinking, Jedi, but video game, Star Wars galaxy. Obviously, a Jedi of a different type, but a human, and so I was just like, all right, I'll explore it. And so I always like that. I like the idea of the Jedi not being all space cops. I like them. I like the kind of Ronin type Jedi who are just kind of wandering around, more like Toshiro Mifune, more like rogue samurai, as opposed to just, we're all up in this corporate tower failing to protect the galaxy because because
it doesn't always work out like they planned. But here is that one on front of.
Also in Duralar, yeah.
Yeah. And again, the scans just don't, they're just hard to do. I mean, I know that you clearly you probably had a much better scanner than I had when you were compositing everything, especially with the Red Star stuff. But yeah, I mean, the detail is very fine. That's the thing.
Yeah. I know. I used to drive Snakebite crazy. But
right. I can only
scan it, rescan it. Sometimes I would go back in. We'd work together, so I'd go over to his apartment, and I'd, if they were too light, he'd be like, "Dude, help me out." So I'd go in and darken some lines.
No, that's these are slick. I mean, again, not what you're used to seeing, but when you see it on a white background, I mean, they're perfect. And one thing I did want to mention, because I know if I don't, I'll forget. I'll put it in the chat right now. I wanted to put a link to your CAF gallery so people know how to reach out to you. When the show's over and whatnot. I'll make sure it's in the show description as well afterwards. I don't believe I put it in there, but now it's in the chat. So anybody who's curious, because you have a fair number of pieces that are for sale in your CAF gallery as well. And other examples of your work. So there we go. We got that in there. Total Glam Jedi. Yeah, Colin's a big Star Wars fan, so it doesn't surprise me that he's checking this out. So I've got two other Star Wars pieces to look at here. So I'll get one of them. Now this is one that was brought new to the show today. So this is going to be lot number 7. Highlight that. And priced at $350. It's from the Ulick storyline. So this is from issue 5, page 17 on 11 by 17.
Yep. Again, I love old movies. So this is the first time I ever saw a Jedi fighting a Jedi and have. I love this idea of when the lightsabers clash and there's always that big flash of light, that their shadows would be thrown up on the wall. So if you look closely at those columns, you'll see that their sabers are clashing and it's making a big burst of light and their shadows are on the wall. It takes me all the way back to Errol Flynn and Basil Rathbone dueling in the torchlight of a castle in Adventures of Robin Hood. I'd always wondered why, I always wanted more light dynamics in the Star Wars stories, but they weren't possible back in the time of the original films. But in comics, you can do anything. So I laid this sequence out so that I could take advantage of that and throw some shadows on the wall.
And I didn't notice that myself when I looked at the art originally and scanned it. But no, that's cool. I love the effect that you're getting at, with the lightsabers hitting each other, and you can pretty much hear the sabers hitting. But no, this is beautiful.
Thank you. And like every Star Wars, balcony, there's no rail.
Right, of course not.
It can't be railings. There's no railings in Star Wars.
There would be no tension if we didn't. We had railings in there. All right. Well, this one is out there too. Lot 7 at $350. Now, the next one we're going to show was one from the last show, and it's a DPS, and from the same storyline. But this is from issue 1, pages 6 and 7, and so it's 22 by 17. This one's priced at $850, and I mean, this just it's as amazing as it was the first time. Now I'm looking at it again. I mean, so when you got, obviously this is from the first book. So how did you approach the first issue? I mean, it had to have been a bit of a, I don't know. Did you do a lot of preliminary drawings trying to figure out the characters? I
love the Ulick Qel-Droma. It's my favorite Tales of the Jedi series because I took it upon myself to fly to Kevin Anderson's home. And he was good enough to host me for a few days. And I stood there for, I think, a week, better part of a week, and laid out the entire series together. I really just wanted to kind of take hold of the series and not just kind of, I love collaboration. I love working with other artists face to face and, making stuff happen together. And so I flew out to stay with him and work this all out. And that's why you get these intense moments of character introduction. For a character in Star Wars, one of the big things that Star Wars always does well, traditionally is character introduction, right? Darth Vader entering the blockade runner, Luke Skywalker as Beru calls him, and he, lopes across the desert of Tatooine from the Sandcrawler to his home. Leia, that wonderful intro as she gives R2 the data tapes. Han Solo, Chewbacca. When we meet these characters, and it's a big thing. And so this is Ulick. He at this point, he's a fallen Jedi. He's killed his own brother. He's just trying to hide. He's trying to find a place to go die. And it's just a life of total regret. And he's being led by this character, Hogon. And Hogon is leading him around the galaxy to try to find this isolated place where no one can find him. And of course, Hogon has led him to the place where he killed his brother. So, and he can't say anything about it. He can't say, oh, by the way, this is where I killed my brother, so I don't want to live here. But so he has at the end of in the last panel, you can see him crying. The tears just come immediately as he looks. And on the next page, he sees a ghost of his brother. And so, I've got all the scary stuff here in the top panel. You've got, the sorrowful birds. All that stuff is just, how do I visualize what Ulick is going through? In animation, there's this fantastic saying: a location, a background is not a location; it's the emotional state of the character. And so, the emotional state of the character, obviously, here is quite forlorn, and so the background matches that. There's all these, scary faces and stony, scary faces. Birds in silhouette, dead branches, bare branches, and that's all having to do with who he is. And they leave from here, and of course this was a really wonderful opening. Kevin wrote it so that we kind of take this tour to not only do we introduce the reader to what has been, it's kind of a previously on, but we do it in an emotional way where we're seeing Ulick relive these horrible things that he's responsible for. And of course, by the end, he redeems himself. That is the name of the series, The Redemption of Ulick Qel-Droma. And again, it was really fun for me to take Ulick Qel-Droma. I was the first character. I designed him. I drew his first issue and his last issue. And that's always fun.
So when you were doing the character design, were you working directly, with the writer on that as far as trying to come up with their the way they envisioned it? How was that process?
Yeah, Kevin and Tom were great. Tom Veach, who did the first Tales of Jedi issues, and then Kevin, who I did this with, were really great. They're like, look, that's all you. As far as the designs, licensing likes your stuff, obviously. So once I had sold once George Lucas had sided with me in the conflict over whether or not to use these alternate lightsabers I had invented, mm-hmm. I had everyone kind of deferred to my visual sense, which was a wonderful honeymoon time. And Kevin did give me a man. He had a note. He was like, "Well, this is like Clint Eastwood, right? He's the unforgiven Clint Eastwood." And I was like, that said everything.
That's cool. And it's funny that that once you had George's approval, it gave you a bit of
everyone just
cloud in the room, right?
It was super fun. It was like I said, a wonderful honeymoon period where I could I think it looks like this, and they're all yeah.
Well, that's with great power comes great responsibility, right? I mean,
you had
it, you were wielding it, and that's awesome. Let's see. Now we're going into something a little different. I mentioned it in the emails. I think I showed off some scans on Thursday night, but you did some recreations, some cover recreations, and so we've got those sort of in the middle of the sets of artwork we're showing today. And you did a cover recreation for the Marvel Star Wars issues 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
And was this, and we didn't talk about this, so I didn't I had no backstory on what was, the impetus or the desire, or what kind of brought about the idea of doing cover recreations for these 3 books.
I got to give credit to Jim McLaughlin. Jim McLaughlin he kind of came up with this idea, and I thought it was awesome. These are pivotal books, obviously, as someone who drew Tales of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. I saw the cover to Star Wars issue 1 in the soapbox on Stan's page in an Iron Man book I think I was reading at the time, or a Conan book at the time. And that was the first glance I ever had visually at a Star Wars anything. And so to recreate that cover it just clicked in my mind as a really fun thing to do. And like I said, for Cthulhu-chan, I've been studying the old Marvel stuff. And even, the 60s to the 70s, I mean, let's face it, that's a very, very special time for Marvel. Mm-hmm. And it was really fun to kind of just really lean in and do these recreations and learn about what Howard was doing at the time and what a comic book cover can be. Back then the philosophy was let people know what this book is about on the cover, as opposed, right? It was like, reach out to them.
Right.
You know, there's
it's not that way
dialogue
today.
No, it's not that way today. It's like, I wonder what this book is about. It's like, right? It's like, this could be about anything from the cover. But back then it was like, here is what the story is, you know? And so that was fun.
Now these are still in your possession. Because you were just finishing them up before the package was sent in the mail a couple of weeks ago. So those ones I think will be handled by Jim. If anything sales today of these three, they will be handled by him. But so I don't have them in hand to show them off, but I have good scans of all of them. So we'll go ahead and show the first one, which is from the Star Wars 1 recreation. And I wish I could see these in person because they'd be cool. I love the the blue pencil with the black. I mean, we see that in some of the Red Star pieces. We'll see that later on, but and even in some of the D&D pieces. But I like when you're mixing the blue and the graphite pencils here.
Thanks, and it was really fun. I did all that hand lettering in pencil. I changed some things. Obviously, if anyone Googles Star Wars issue 1 from 1977, they'll see the differences. Mm-hmm. I put an actual, and again, back then, nobody knew when Chaykin got this assignment. I don't know what reference he got. Nobody knew what Star Wars was going to be yet. And so the ships are different, and comic book designs and cinema designs are very, very different. It's it's easier to photograph a model of an X-Wing than it is to draw an X-Wing. Drawing an X-Wing is not easy. So there's, so on the original cover, there's like, it's a suggestion of an X-Wing. And in this one, I made an actual X-Wing. In the lower right-hand corner, there's a suggestion of a B-Wing. This one is an actual B-Wing. The TIE Fighter is the same. I did leave the upper right model the same. The upper right spaceship is like totally, I believe it's a Colin Cantwell model that Howard had reference for, and he put that in there. And so I left that there just because I think it's a wonderful, I found as I was doing these reproductions that there were certain times when I really liked changing something up. Like Luke's lightsaber is accurate to his lightsaber. Luke's shoes and putties are accurate. His leg straps, and Han's blaster based on a Mauser is accurate. Darth Vader's helmet is accurate. So, but there were also times when I liked leaving it as it was, and we'll see in the next two recreations where I digressed and where I kept it the same. Hand lettering the Star Wars logo is something I don't recommend for anyone unless you're super into T-squares and circle templates.
I was going to ask you about that. That had to have been a little bit painstaking to do them by hand. Oh
my gosh. And so Jim's like, hey man, do issue 1. And of course I'm like, I think I'll do issues 1, 2, and 3, which we'll see. So why I did this to myself 3 times, I have no idea, but it was just so fun to do.
Well, good exercise.
Oh my gosh. It really made me appreciate digital lettering, I'll tell you, and appreciate hand letterers. When I think back to the people that had to lay this out originally and had to do this lettering originally, it gave me a sincere, profound appreciation for the way that comics used to be made. Also, Princess Leia is also different in this. In the original cover, she has her eyes closed. She's kind of looking up, and she's a much more active character than that. So at no fault of Howard at the time, the female lead, the woman, the ingenue of any story was always this kind of dreamy character that stood back as the men fought. And as we all know, Leia was a milestone in changing that for women characters. And so I thought that she should reflect that and have a little of a stern look to her.
No, that makes perfect sense. And these are, I wrote it on here, they are 11 by 17, just so everybody is aware. These aren't
full size.
8.5.
Oh, and if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you guys can see, so that's where the Comics Code stamp used to be. And I wasn't going to recreate the Comics Code stamp. So in the right-hand corner on this one, I put "The Force is with you always." And on the other two, I say, "This is the way." So, which is what the Comics Code was really saying, right? The Comics Code was basically a little stamp saying, "This is the way." The Comics Code.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's look at issue 2 then. That's next one is lot 10. Issue 2, a bit more busy. But this one had to be a lot of fun to work on, though.
So fun. And so what I wanted to change on this one was, again, I guarantee you the reference was very, very slight, right? And there was probably one image, and it was probably a crappy little Polaroid that Howard was working from. And now, of course, I have the advantage of 40 years of reference on all these characters, all these aliens that were just one-offs at the time that this movie and this comic was made. Now they've all got, they have species names. Their species have names for the planets that they come from. Some of these are actual individual characters. So I took advantage of that, and I put in all genuine Cantina characters. There's one, they're all genuine. So I put some Jawas in there. The original cover doesn't have the band. I put the band like boning out. They're like, let's get out of here. Let's get out of this crazy fight scene. Because that's what a band would do, right? They're not going to hang out for a fight. They're going to take off. Panda Baba, the walrus looking dude, has his arm already cut off, having started this whole fight. And every character in there was an actual character that Rick Baker had made for the Cantina scene.
Man, when I saw this one, I really enjoyed it because it's back to your pencil style. I still love the blue and the graphite mixed together. It's just a fun touches to this. I mean, it gives it a little bit of depth, and again, you did the logo again.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I wouldn't have the patience to do that. I'd tell somebody they would need to make an acetate overlay or something to put it in there, but you went all out on it.
I'm crazy.
Walrus. Robert Berman mentions, he will always be Kenner's walrus man.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know his name until I looked him up for reference.
No, that's awesome. But so let's see. This is Star Wars 2. Then we have one more, and I remember. Because Jim sent me the scan to this one, and I'm like, I can hear Chewbacca screaming right now, and he told me that that doctors could help me or something like that.
I agree. I look at it and I hear that.
Exactly.
And Han Solo has that famous line about Wookiees. The introduction, again, character introduction, really important in these first 3 films. And Han Solo says 3PO. That's because droids. No one cares if a droid, whatever. And Han says, that's because a droid doesn't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees have been known to do that. Well, we never see Chewbacca do that for many reasons, I'm sure valid. We live in a more violent age now, so I put some stormtrooper arms. In the original cover, you see Chewbacca there, and he's rampant. His fists are up, all up in there, and because he was, Chewbacca, he was not kinder, gentler Chewbacca back then. He was the muscle. He was the soak. He was the big guy of the team. So. He was very intimidating, and so I put some stormtrooper arms in there. And I also, of course, legitimate stormtrooper costumes. My friends in the 501st, I apologize for not making a completely accurate stormtrooper pistol, but it's suggested there. For the sake, if I had made an actual stormtrooper pistol, if I'd gone for authenticity there, it really would have messed up what was happening with Chewbacca. So I stuck with what was there.
Well, sometimes you have to make sacrifices like that, Christian, for the sake of
exactly
the overall
right.
artwork.
Exactly right. And I also gave Leia, even though when she's on the Death Star, she doesn't have her pistol, I gave her pistol from the Blockade Runner. Another moment of staying to the comic book cover was the proportion of Han Solo's Mauser blaster pistol. That's like massive, very kind of toy-like. I could have shrunk it and made it more proportionate, but I kind of loved the charm of that massive pistol and the foreshortening of it, so I left that as it was. And again, Luke doesn't use the lightsaber on the Death Star, but it's on the cover, and why not? And of course, it's Luke's actual lightsaber that Obi-Wan gave him in the opening of A New Hope. And the Marvel Comics group, that was another thing. So the Star Wars logo is there, but also Marvel Comics group was also, oh my gosh, so much work. There was a bunch of lettering in between Marvel Comics Group and Star Wars on the original covers. It said something like the greatest space fantasy film of all. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I drew the line.
It does not need it. Not at all. Rich Fiddler says, let the Wookiee win. Yes, that's yes.
Exactly.
But no, all 3 are fantastic. Absolutely. And you have them with you, or are they?
I do. I don't have them with. I'm sorry, I don't have them on me right now. But yes, I have them. And
I didn't know if you'd be able to show people. But
sorry about that.
But there you have it, everybody. Now next we are moving over to. We've got 3 other things to look at. One is this is Dungeons and Dragons again. Now, why? I remember we had a few of those pieces last time. And how did that project come about that you worked on these?
So this one was a 3rd edition D&D had just come out. Dungeons and Dragons is my favorite way to relax. It remains kind of one of the few things I can do that completely takes my brain off of work. If I watch TV or if I watch a movie, I can't help it, right? I'm seeing the director call action. I'm seeing where the lights are. I'm seeing what the actors are doing. I can't help it. Most of the time, it takes a lot for a story to immerse me. I will say that Jennifer Lawrence's recent movie, No Hard Feelings, totally like got me into it. I was totally immersed in that hilarious like 80s style rom-com. That was a really fun movie. If you guys haven't seen it,
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm not being paid by them. I was like, when was the last time I saw a movie? I just completely forgot that I was watching a movie. Mission Impossible recently, which was awesome, and No Hard Feelings. At any rate, most of the time it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Mhm.
And so when we were doing Red Star, enjoying that glorious season of happiness, D&D came out with its 3rd edition, and it was a milestone. D&D players in the audience know what a milestone 3rd edition was: feats and skills and having enough hit points at first level and all this cool stuff you could do that you couldn't do before. And so, and it was also Ryan Dancy's ingenious D20 system, and the OGL opened things up for outside publishers. So we were like, how are we not going to do a D&D book? So we did that. We made a D&D book of NPCs. I loved the Rogues Gallery, and there were no NPC books out at the time. So we wrote up some NPCs, we did drawings for them, and that's what these drawings are from. Tone Rodriguez, also my buddy Tone from another North Hollywood guy like me, also did a bunch of these drawings.
Did he? I love Tone's work.
Yeah, he's great. And he did a bunch of these from this NPC book. Here's a funny anecdote. My team was like, can we please name it? I wanted to call it Dramatis Personae. And my friends were like, why don't we call it like Friends and Foes? I was like, no, Dramatis Persona, pretentious. I should have named it Friends and Foes. So I'll give that to them.
All right. Well, sometimes simpler is better.
Simpler is better.
If everyone can't pronounce it, then it's Friends and Foes. Yeah.
I was like, hasn't everyone read Shakespeare? Surely everyone knows what Dramatis Personae means.
Well, let's see. We've got 3 of these, and they are on the well, let me just show them. Now, these ones, at least this first one, they all kind of have the graphite and the blue. Well, at least the first 2. So let me go ahead and show this one here. Where are we at? There we go. So this is lot 12, and it's a little bit bigger than the other ones. It's on 11 by 14, not the 9 by 12s as before. But as far as like when you're approaching this, I mean, what was the choice between using the graphite versus the blue pencil? Was it just did you have you knew what things you wanted to pop with the blue? I mean, because it seems like a very orchestrated approach to what was blue and what you chose to use as graphite.
For sure. We knew this was going to be printed in grayscale. We didn't want to do color, so we're going to do grayscale. So I wanted to have some variety in the armor and the character. So this was an experiment. Like I said, we were deep into Red Star at this point, and I was working like this every day. Every day was blue pencil in rough and then graphite over the top. And then this time I went a little crazier with the blue. And this is 1999, 2000. So, back before we realized that characters should have a cover, warriors should have their midriffs covered when they're going into battle. But this is before those, in a simpler time, when belly buttons meant that you're so tough you don't need to cover your midriff.
Exactly.
But the leather armor was fun to do. This is a character from the campaign that Team Red Star did when we were relaxing. Like I said, it's how I relax. So when we weren't publishing comic books or going to conventions and selling books or dealing with marketing of the Red Star, we would get together on weekends and play Dungeons and Dragons. I DM'd, and this was one of my most fun NPCs. Obviously, a worshiper of Lulth, a drow from the Underdark, and she was the magnificent son of a gun that the characters loved to hate her. She always got away. She always kicked their ass and ran away, and they hated her. Every time she showed up, they would scream how bad they wanted to kill her. They had unfinished business with her like crazy, and I really enjoyed putting her in the NPC book.
I can see why, and I was going to mention it, but I see Marcus and Ellen already did about the collar in this one. Essentially some creature winged collar on her. It's slick. But here, let me show the original too, because the scan on this one's okay. It's a little bit better. I think the graphite made the scanner actually work a little bit more properly. Here, let me hide this and show it this way, so you can see it is pretty much what the scan had. And the scan actually might have been a little bit darker, but again, so typically then you're laying pretty much the whole figure out in the blue pencil first, and then going in and just adding some of the details. So that makes a lot of sense then. Yeah.
And a spider themed pauldron or shoulder guard.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a hand crossbows, and
this is on 11 by 14 Duralux. Yeah, it's great. And again, it's this is the fun side of things that you don't get to see when stuff gets inked, for instance. When you don't get to, 'cause a lot of times pencilers, they're not going to finish things quite as much. So these are all they're basically finished pieces that we get to see here with these. These are nice. But now we're going to see a different character. Let's see here. Let me highlight that one. Okay, so this is the one that didn't have any of the graphite on it.
That's right. That's right. I would love to go back in on this one with the graphite. I haven't gotten around to, obviously. We did an insectoid, an assassin, a thri-kreen, and kind of variant of a thri-kreen. And I thought, if I had an exoskeleton, I would totally engrave. So I thought, okay, exoskeleton culture, right? You have an exoskeleton. It's super tough. So market, right? So put some really cool like engraving type tattoos on this exoskeletal creature. I'm always thinking from the inside out. If there was a culture, if there were sentient creatures with exoskeleton, what would they do what might they do to illuminate themselves, and hence the markings.
Right, and this one's a little bit brighter than in my scan, probably because the graphite isn't there. At least I'm learning something about my scanner, that when there's graphite on it, it actually does a little bit better. But before I switch over to me full screen, I will show that Gabe Carino picked up lot 12. So thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Gabe.
That's a beauty. I mean, that one really, it's stunning. But here, let me switch over to me full screen here so I can show this one. Since my scan is not doing it justice whatsoever. But it's funny, when I saw this, I thought it had to have been green. it just made sense. I don't know why when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
If this were colored, it had to be green.
Yeah, for sure.
But go ahead.
I also took when I was deciding what weapon it would have, I gave it a dagger, not just a dagger, but also what you can see on its shoulder. It has that shape of kind of spininess on its shoulder. And I thought culturally, we're always imitating ourselves. If you look at humans, you can always see a face in a vehicle, so every culture does that. So I thought, okay, if they're going to make weapons, they're going to make weapons that are reflections of themselves. So that's where the shape of that weapon comes from.
Christian, there's one thing. I mean, you are more thoughtful than I don't mean thoughtful, and you really think through all of these things. I mean, you're not just kind of taking anything at face value. You really kind of go the extra mile, like whether it's in character design or your approach to any of the work that you've done. It's just cool to hear. And again, the funny thing is, you're probably not the only one, but you're articulating it better than other people might be, and maybe that's part of the director in you. You're able to kind of hammer out all these things that go into the creative process when you're coming up with character designs like these.
It was super fun that was one of the reasons why when I discovered New Zealand, I kept going back, was because I really felt seen there. I was like, up until then, I was like, I'm crazy. No one else thinks this much about it. And then when I met them, my buddies down there on Peter Jackson's design team, they all worked the same way. And I cried. I literally was like, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy.
Well, right. And you figure in something like that, they're all thinking about like, how would people handle these things culturally, right? Because you're dealing with all these different races, and right. If you didn't think that way, how would it have looked at the end of the day? I mean, you had to approach it completely differently. So that's cool.
It really is happening. Like even Last of Us, they like, okay, we don't want to do just a zombie story. What can we do to differentiate them? How can we work from the inside out and make them different? And it worked brilliantly, right? A fungus-based undead is really, really brilliant and horrifying because it's thought out, because they went that extra mile. It's a massively successful story because we all feel it. You feel that work that goes on the inside. Mad Max Fury Road's another one. If anyone loves Mad Max Fury Road and you haven't read Blood, Sweat, and Chrome, do yourself a favor. And you want to talk about somebody who works from the inside out. George Miller thinks about everything. And it comes out, it's why it feels a certain way. And so it's a great way to work.
Well, I'm writing that down. Blood, Sweat, and Chrome.
Blood, Sweat, and Chrome. Amazing book.
I haven't read it. All right. That's going on my list. All right, so next up, this is going to be lot 14, and this one scans much better. The graphite
that graphite always helps. Yep.
Yes, so this one's at 250. It's on 11x14 as well as the other two, and it's Sir Logan.
Sir Logan, and NPC, your neighborhood shiny guy with the sunlit shield and the sword of fire, very, very classic D&D type dude, So threw him in there. And
no midriff exposed on this one.
no midriff exposed. See, exactly. Back a simpler time. His arms were exposed though, which is also kind of silly. So Logan, cover your arms. Why are you going into combat like that? But Conan went through how many decades now with a loincloth. So
that is very, very true.
Right.
So yeah, well, it's because he just knew he was never going to get hit.
That's right.
Somehow, I don't know, but yeah. So I'm not even gonna. I should show that one too, because just in case people can see any of the details in here that my scanner's not picking up, but it really well. Yeah, see, the blue is fainter. That's funny. That's what it is. The graphite gets scanned perfect, and the blue doesn't get seen. So let me swing back over here to me, and I will show this one. And again, yeah, you do lose the blue, and I because in the shield you barely see the blue on just the the edge of it on this side here. You don't get to see that it's actually going all the way into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is fantastic. Now, this would have been the kind of character that I would have gone in as in Dungeons and Dragons. Just somebody, if I could have the a flaming sword and a shield, I was ready for battle. So
right.
Sir Bill would have been a more appropriate title for this one. But this is so. So when you were doing the book, I mean, what kind of descriptions were you given as far as for the character design?
It was all like totally self-generated. So
really? Okay, so you just did whatever you wanted.
Yeah, for everyone. It's like, so let's go. What will people need in a campaign? We'll do an assassin. What could make it interesting? Oh, what if it's an insect assassin? All right, cool. We'll do another thief. Oh, what if she's a drow? Awesome. And of course, she was from the campaign. So you're always looking for that fun character that any D&D player is gonna like. There's some classic ones like Sir Logan. Your local constabulary. Kind of a fun knight NPC to go along with you in your adventure. He's not going to steal any treasure from you after it's said and done.
Right.
If he finds something, he's going to share it with the party. He's not going to keep it to himself. And so you have to have that character there. So we did a bunch. There was one really fun character that one of my friends came up with. It was schizophrenic. So it was 3 characters in one. Like a simpler time.
Exactly.
But it was a split personality character. So the one character was a bard, one was a fighter, and one was the thief, I believe. But yeah, it was really fun, and you never knew which one you're going to get.
Did you have to roll the dice to figure out which one?
Something like that. We had some ingenious method by which when he woke up in the morning, which character you were going to have to deal with.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, if you're doing it all with your own direction, then man, you can't have a better gig than that, especially since you're used to doing character creation anyway.
Yeah.
To kind of hop into that and be doing it for D&D, that's just slick.
And then we got super busy, and that's where Tone came in and really helped out. He did he did our orc warrior. He did some barbarians. He really helped out. He did some beautiful stuff.
Awesome. I wonder if he's kept his stuff. He gets out to a lot of shows.
He does.
Yeah. All right, now we're moving into Red Star. So we've got 2 pieces from Red Star next, and the first is going to be the cover image, and I should get that here so we can show that off. Well, why don't I show it before we even show the slide? Why don't you talk about it when I?
All right. Yeah.
It's it is the image that's been behind me the whole show.
So it's been behind me the whole show. This is the drawing. So the weapon was drawn separately. The ship was separate. In the Art of the Red Star, we're going to show this process, and you're going to see how these all work together. I had just worked on a few PlayStation games before I invented Red Star, and that's what inspired me to use this production process, was seeing the power of 3D geometry and what could be done. And so I was like, I'll draw the characters, because back then characters were very limited. You could do backgrounds, you could do ships, you could do stuff like that. But characters at that time in 3D geometry took way more. They just couldn't be done like this. So I drew them. And the weapon was a 3D model, as you can see behind me. And the ship, that's how it came out. And this was issue 1. Like I said, on the cover previews, 6 languages, 2 movie deals so far, 1 television option, a PlayStation 2 game, an Xbox game, and it all started with this drawing. This is the first image that anyone ever saw of the Red Star, and it's the first time it's ever been for sale. I didn't think I'd ever put this one for sale, but there it is.
Well, here, let me show these slides so we can give everybody the price on this. So it is $5,000. It is the first cover that was done. This is lot 15, and I put the image there. I didn't realize it was going to be behind you the whole show.
Yeah,
but
I
I've
totally
added
forgot
it there.
Yeah, I definitely not priced to move, but you know, it's just got so much significance. I was like, if someone wants to buy it, it's to go back to one of your previous questions, Bill. When I've let pieces like this go, it's like, okay, well, if someone will pay this much for it, I can let it go. So there's another deciding factor.
Well, I mean, again, it's something that's probably the most recognized image from well, there's probably a few other ones too. But you know, being the first, so that's cool. I mean, and I appreciate the fact that, because I thought this might be one. When I saw it in the list, I was like, oh, I don't know, you may not send this one to me, but then I get to see it myself too. It's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been so influential. The Red Star has been really influential. I've had people walk up to me in so many conventions and say, hey, this is, you know, my producer handed out these books at the beginning of production, whether it's a video game or a television show or a movie. We don't get a lot of credit for that, but time and time again, I've seen video games and movies, you know, inspired by the Red Star. And it's always kind of a nice feather in the cap. One of the, you know, every time you see it, I'm like, well, there's another moment, you know, and it's cool when it gets confirmed. It's easy to get paranoid about stuff like that. Because, hey, that kind of looks like my work. And this happens to artists all over the place. It's not just me, this is all of us. And it's nice when they'll actually walk up to you and confess, basically.
Does that happen a lot? Or
with Red Star, definitely. With Red Star, it's been constant. There was, especially when we first came out, many video games, other comics were inspired by the design process. Joe Quesada called me and said, you can do any X-Men book you want, just do it in this Red Star style. And we voted that we were going to keep doing Red Star at that time. We took a team vote and decided we're going to keep doing Red Star. And of course, another factor in that decision was, and I apologized to Joe, I was like, look, I'd love to do that, but you know, my friends have put their life savings together to make this book, and you know, we got to kind of see this through. So he was really cool and understanding about it. Of course, you know, looking back, I'm like, we probably would have got there back faster had we done X-Men and then gone back to Red Star. But live and learn, baby.
Right. Well, you know, you never know when you're passing up an opportunity that might, you know, benefit you in a different way. But you know, you're in the depths of, you know, working on your own stuff. I mean, it's and it was revolutionary at the time. That's the thing. You know, no one was doing it, and I think even when I was reading about it, I thought there's no way this is going to get pulled off. You know, and and it did, and it didn't fall flat. You know, I mean, that was something that back in the late '90s, you're thinking, did things that might have been done on a computer, composited in a computer, might not have had that same kind of pop, but there was we put a lot of work into it and did a lot of I think revolutionary things with the technology of that time.
Thanks.
Now, next one here. This is so actually I have two other Red Star pieces. I forgot, because I've got one other. This is a new one as well, and I did find the published cover to this one. So this is a cover image to a special edition cover. I'm not sure which storyline it was attached to. It's on 11 by 17 on the Duralux, like we've seen on the previous ones, and lot 16 is priced at $700. So. Tell me a bit about this particular piece, because clearly the cover to issue 1 wasn't drawn on Duralux. Now, had you not made the transition from a standard Bristol board to the Duralux at that point?
So yeah, at that time, by issue 1, the R&D was not quite done yet. I was doing a lot of Duralar, but I was still doing the occasional comic book board, depending on a shot-to-shot basis. It was case-by-case basis. And so cover to 1, yeah, it's on a board, and it was okay because the perspective of the character wasn't necessarily dependent on the background. And when I needed to know what the character would look like against the 3D background, that's when I really had to use Duralar. If there were certain images where no matter what orientation the character was in, it didn't matter, that's when I could go on board. And so that's how that would work. And it was again, it was really fun, made every day fun, because every image, it was kind of its own challenge. And this one is really important. This is a Reaper from the Red Star. The whole story of the Red Star is kind of typified in this one character, because the Red Star is all about where the magic comes from. in the Red Star, it's a story of the souls of the dead are not free in the world of the Red Star. They are imprisoned by technology, and so the powerful people of the world have figured out how to capture human souls and use them to fuel this magic. And as a result, they like fighting wars, because wars mean death, and death means souls, and souls are something that they have now figured out how to commoditize. So it's this the world of the Red Star is one where the dead are not free, and this was the first successful experiment in which the wealthy were able to capture a human soul and exploit it even after death. And this is their prototype of that. This is 100 years before the time of the main storyline. It was 100. By the time we get to the main storyline in issue 1, 100 years of this technology has come and gone, and this was the prototype. So it really means a lot to me. And also I was like, okay, so how am I going to make this? The way they capture the souls is at first through this barbed wire, this magical barbed wire that can strip a soul from a human body and hold it. And so that was I always loved ghost stories, and ghosts are always very wispy. And I thought, the Red Star ghost will be encased in this barbed wire.
Well, I mean, I think it came out really good, and this is
Thanks.
Being in blue. That's why I wanted to show the original as well, because this one's not so bad, but it still is missing some of the detail in it.
Thank you.
But I see when they printed it as as almost as if it was a graphite image, right? I mean,
for sure. For sure. This is, and let me tell you, when I drew this, that if you look at the tangles of barbed wire, I was like, I'm not going to go in there with black. I drew this once. I am not drawing it again. It was right. It was so delicate, and there's so many little sticky, pointy barbed wire tangles in there. And that was part of it, right? To create that feeling of the soul being shrouded and trapped in this entanglement of kind of pain, that I really wanted to make it not just barbed wire, but just this tangled rat's nest of barbed wire, which was fine to draw once, but I didn't want to go back in and go for it. And this is from the 4th Red Star graphic novel. The first 3 take place in the time of Marcus Antares. That's the present of the storyline. This one, it was 2 storylines. One was in the past and one is in the present. And this is from the past, where they first invented how to do this. And we're very excited about what it meant technologically and profit-wise for them. And which is, of course, what the characters are fighting against. They're fighting. They by the time we get to the main Red Star storyline, the characters have no idea that this has happened. They have no idea what they're fighting for. Their country tells them go fight. They go fight. They're loyal. They're patriots. And only after they're dead on the battlefield do they realize, oh, my soul isn't free. I'm in this artificial damnation for the profit of others. And so this is another piece I didn't think I would put up for sale, honestly.
Well, it's fairly priced at $700 for a cover, and we've got one other piece from Red Star, and that one was one that we had the last time around. It's part of a DPS, so I know I've showed the whole image here for that one. So lot 17 is priced at $400. It's on 14 by 16, and it's all graphite.
Graphite.
Yep. And this is again, you can see the published image there inset on the left-hand side. So it's one of the characters is part of this DPS image. So, I mean, in something like this, were each character done on a separate piece of Duralax, or were those other characters somehow, two on a page, or how?
No, exactly right. Every character is a separate drawing. Those 3 people, the one in the background and the 2 in the foreground, is on a separate pieces of Duralar and drawn separately, because I knew from the layout how generally they were going to go. But I learned quickly that when we were compositing them, I liked drawing a little bit more than I thought I'd need, because you never knew. I liked the jazz of it. I liked getting together with Byron and sitting there in Photoshop and seeing what might happen. Right. I love collaboration. And so I didn't want to just dictate how every image should go. There were times when I allowed us to play around and find something. And I was always happy that I did, because we'd find these happy accidents. And a lot of the Red Star success visually comes from that process of just being open to, it would mean I had to draw a bunch of stuff that never got seen, which is why I'm really happy to do the art of the Red Star, to show these drawings in ways that they've never been seen before, because a lot of them is, cut off by the panel border. But this is a great example of, that's the main that's the guardian of his nation. This is a free nation. This is a nation fighting against the forces of the Red Star. So I just told you the most of the mechanized, what we would consider the industrial world, they imprison their souls, and they wage war despite. They wage war with imprisoned souls. This is a free nation. So this nation, the souls are free. So the souls choose to fight for the living, as opposed to being enslaved to fight for the living. And it's a metaphor of defense versus invasion, right? And things like that. But so yeah, this is a ghost, and he's unchained, right? He's not chained. He's not shackled. He's bound, but it's a personal choice. He has bound himself to that law book. That's his power, but it's by choice. When we choose to bond ourselves, this is all deep Red Star stuff. But anyway, that's what informs these drawings. And yeah, and this is graphite, pure graphite. Again, this is from issue 2. The process was still very experimental, and maybe I didn't even have a blue pencil around that day. Just like, I got to draw this. This is the deadline. I got to draw on graphite.
So, you mentioned that it's been optioned a few times, and yet, so what's that process been like for you to have a property that you worked on?
Like a real business school, business school. You learn about everything. You learn about what it's like to make these deals, what kind of deals are offered. You quickly feel exactly how the creators of Superman felt, right? You got this idea, it's cool, that people will like it, and your only way of getting it out to people is by signing this deal, and that completely, is designed to basically exploit you. The great thing about Image was I didn't have that problem. I took this first to another publisher that'll go unnamed, and I didn't like the deal, and so Richard Starkings told me, "Hey, have you considered Image?" And I was grateful to him for that. It meant, of course, I had to raise some money, hence my friend's life savings, and it meant doing a lot of the stuff myself. But again, which I had no idea about. But if you're ready for that ordeal, if you're down for the struggle of getting your own work out there, it was a great way to go, because you kept all your rights. You were the one that everybody had to approach,
right,
if they wanted to deal with it. And so it's been fascinating. It definitely gave me so much more. I'd recommend it for anyone trying to get a book at Image, because it takes you from callow freelancer who might be casual about the work that everybody else on a book is doing, and it educates you as to the significance of those other people, and it makes you respect your collaborators a lot more. We didn't have an editor on Red Star. If I could go back in time, the first thing I would do is hire an editor to keep everybody on point. And I was kind of, wearing many hats at the time. I was like the default editor, putting it all together, and I would have loved to have delegated that position.
So you're saying that there's a great value in a good editor.
Editors are priceless. The whole industry is being held up by the editors. The whole industry is being held up by them. I've got friends who are editors, and Chris, Jamie, others, and they're holding the whole place up. Diana Schutz is a friend of mine, and Bob Schreck, and having to hear about the industry from their perspective is fascinating, because they really are the unsung hero. If you're at a comic convention and you meet an editor, please thank them on my behalf, because they're making the whole thing happen. They're the producers of the comic book world, the real producers, not the people who just put their name on a thing for money. The actual producers who produce the book, who actually get it all to the printer on time, or as soon as they can.
Right. Hopefully on schedule.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to look at the last section
of
things. These are the Electra pieces, and let's see. We've got what do we got? We got 5 of these pieces. So the first one is Lot 18. This is from Electra the Hand. It's from issue 1, page 7, and just some great storytelling in this. I assume that you had to have done a lot of reference work to kind of come up with what the characters were going to wear, how they were going to look, the the buildings, all of that. I think I imagine again there had to been some background study work that was done in the lead up to working on the book.
Definitely, my favorite director is Akira Kurosawa, and I loved the opportunity to do feudal Japan. I've seen so many stories, Jidaigeki, like this, old medieval Japan stories. I have a special place in my heart for them. And to be able to do one of them like I did in Electra the Hand was great. Really appreciated doing the origin of the hand. I was able to do, again, this is right off of Red Star. So as you can see, it's really flowy layout, really from one moment to another. This is all flashback. So I really got into the as Scott McCloud would say, the kind of type 5 transition where you're going, this is not necessarily a type 5 transition, but as much as possible, I tried to work in those type 5 transitions, which are, you'll see in a lot of Japanese storytelling, where you see that the story is inviting you in as opposed to shouting at you and answering questions for you. In this kind of story, that you're invited in, your questions are raised in your mind as opposed, you ask the questions, not the story answering them by force. So it was really, really fun to do. And another thing that a big inspiration for me on this book was Ninja Scroll. For those of you big anime fans from the 90s, if you know Ninja Scroll, it's one of the best anime ever. And so I also use that as reference.
Very nice. So did Quesada have anything to do with you getting back into Marvel after Red
Yes,
Star?
he did. Yes, he did. He's like, now will you work for me? so Joe was great. I had business in New York. A piece of mine was being shown at the Society of American Illustration. A Red Star piece was being displayed there with some of my favorites. Michael Whalen had a piece. Bill Sienkiewicz had a piece in there. It was a Spectrum show, and I was humbled to be among those pieces. And so flew to New York for the opening. And while I was there, I asked Joe if we could have a meeting, and that's when we set up this project. And he was drawing a Daredevil page at the time in his office at Marvel. It was good to see him.
Sweet. Well, Joe did a lot of good things for Marvel during
No
that.
doubt. No doubt. He really, really turned it all around.
All right. Well, 18 is available. Let's see. We got 19 next. This is kind of gruesome, but it's priced at $250 on 11 by 17. Plenty of throwing stars stuck in this gentleman.
Yeah, this is ninjas versus pirates.
The pirates didn't stand a chance.
Pirates did not stand a chance. This was this is a ninja-centered book, and so the pirates are going to lose. And it's my first time. Now, okay, my career starts doing ninjas, so this was a throwback all the way to me being 19 years old. The very first comic I ever did was in an anthology called Tales of the Ninja Warriors, and it was all ninjas all the time. So it was really fun to go back and do ninja again. And so the shurikens were, I was like, this guy, shurikens to the face. Bam, shuriken to the face. So yeah, and I love rigging. I can't get enough pirate ships because I love rigging. I have this weird love of drawing too many ropes.
Well, when I showed these on Thursday, I was told it was rigging because I don't know what I said. I think I said ropes, ship ropes.
Yeah.
Somebody was like, "That's rigging, Bill."
It's rigging, Bill.
But very nice page, yeah. And let's see, that's 19, priced at $250, and here's the doozy of the bunch. Yeah, I mean, I think this is, as an illustration, this is just gorgeous. I mean, it's like a woodcut. It's so well thought out, and the movement, everything about this page is just it's beautiful. I mean, I was so happy to see it in person because so often we just see scans of things and we don't really have the full perspective of looking at a piece. But this one was stunning.
Thank you. Yeah, coup de grace. We sold the page before this last time. It was a 9 grid, and it was a duel between these two characters, and so it was 9 grid. They're fighting. It's very Jack Kirby, very informed by that tradition of blow and counter blow, and look and counter look, and snarl and counter snarl, and then open it up to the full page for the coup de grace. And again, obviously, this is someone who loves samurai stories, and I really was grateful to C.B. Cebulski, the writer of this series, to be able to take this page and really indulge and do this big kill. This is a rivalry. This is the main rivalry from the whole series. The whole series is building up to this obligatory moment, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, that's gorgeous. And I didn't, I should have went back and looked at it to see how they colored it. But I mean, just as an illustration, it stands well on its own. But I was curious how the blade motion might have been done and how that might have been handled. I'll have to go back and look. But at the end of the day, almost always the pen and ink work always stands out, hands above the colors work. And that's not to say colors are bad. It's just, as art collectors, it's what we appreciate most. And this is a fantastic image.
Thank
and
you.
This is from the hand 4, page 20, and 11 by 17, priced at $2,000. And then we've got what was this next one? I think it was from issue 5. This is page 4, priced at $200. And I remember Yeah, another something through the side
Blade to the
head.
face.
Why not, right?
Side through the head. Yeah, just cut his little head belt thing. Yeah, there's it's a samurai story. So blades go in people, and this was a fun moment. A 6-panel, and if I could go back again, I'd throw in some backgrounds. But there's a lot of dialogue in these panels, so I was like, dialogue's gonna cover everything.
No, nicely done. I mean, again, 6-panel layouts are always tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did laugh when I got down to the end there.
Yeah.
Watch his headband severed right down the middle.
Right.
And he's seemingly unfazed by it, but I'm sure this is just that split second before
right.
his eyes closed for the last time.
That's right. It's so fast. So fast. Blade to the face.
Oh boy. And was it written that way?
Wow, great question. Yeah, I think it is written that he. Yeah, I believe it was. It's been a while, but I think it was.
All right, we'll show the last piece of the night, and this was one of the ones from the last show. But I mean, it's just a fantastic page. It's priced at $250. It is from issue 5, page 10 on 11 by 17, and and this one you mix up the panel layout a little bit, but still just it's gorgeous. And I'm looking at it right now. I mean, it's fun because you really did there's just a lot of detail in this one that maybe weren't in it, like the action lines. Just putting in the action lines just does a lot for an illustration. And of course it's a fight scene, so it's not like the last page at all, but it just it just makes for the overall composition of the piece just is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a fun one, and Bill Sienkiewicz did a great job on these covers.
Yeah, I did go back and look at those. Yeah. Have you met Bill?
Yes. Yeah, Bill's obviously fantastic. Everybody loves Bill. I don't know anybody that ever said anything bad about Bill Sienkiewicz. He was a real brought to light his collaboration with Alan Moore about the American political scene for the last 50 years at the time was a real pivotal piece for me, just personally. Just a great piece. If no one's read Brought to Light by Sienkiewicz and Moore, give it a shot. It's pretty fascinating.
I haven't read that one either. I've got to add that to my list as well.
Beautiful artwork in there. Like really, it's got that.
Light?
Yeah, Brought to Light. It's hard to find. It's Brought to Light. Yeah. It's all about JFK and all that stuff, and came out before the Oliver Stone movie, and it's really good. A lot of great Bill Sienkiewicz art in there. Mm-hmm. Disturbing stuff like what was that? It was Electra Assassin. It's in that same era, that same Sienkiewicz era of Electra Assassin. So it's that same kind of it's just MTV, right? It's fascinating, but no one can do it like him. If someone tried to do it, they would fail. But Bill, because it's personal for him, it's because it's a vision piece for him. It's just completely coherent and amazing and emotional.
Right.
And he's not paying me to say that.
I love Bill's stuff. Well, it was a little hard at first for me to get into it, but after seeing him for a couple of years, I mean, especially when he got into doing New Mutants and whatnot, I was sold. I mean, he was and early Moon Knight stuff blew me away too.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I love his work. I've never I got to do one show with him, but it was a dual show with him and Dennis Cowan. So nice. it was fun, but it'd be cool to do just like a one-on-one interview with him, because I think he'd keep me on my toes the whole time because he's so sharp, so fun. And he has so many stories.
Yeah, he's great.
Well, so we have a lot of pieces that are unsold. I'm just going to run through. Well, I mean, I'll run through them all really quick, so just to remind everybody. Obviously, pieces can be bought anytime after the show. We've got I probably have the majority of these in hand for a little bit of while before I send them back to Christian. So, and I'll send out some mailings afterwards as well. It's a Saturday afternoon, so we understand that not everybody's always going to be around for that. But let me run through all the pieces to remind those of you what pieces are still available. So we've got Lot 1, the Superman Annual 7, page 37, priced at $300. We've got Lot 2, same annual from Superman, page 43, priced at $350. Lot 3, this is again from Annual 7, page 13. And this one's priced at $200. Lot 4 is page 19 from that same book, priced at $275. Then jumping over to the Star Wars universe for the next few here, we've got that TV show Jedi illustration, which my scan does not do the image justice. Scroll back about an hour and you'll see the image in better detail. This one's priced at $250 on Duralar. And this one's on Duralar as well. Lot 6 is priced at $200 on 9x12. And next up, we've got the Redemption storyline. This is from issue 5, page 17 on 11x17, priced at $350. And a DPS from that same storyline from issue 1, and it's priced at $850. And as a DPS, it's on 22x17. And we have the 3 recreations. First one is from issue 1 from the Marvel series. This one's priced at $1,800 as lot 9. And then we have lot 10 priced at $1,000 for the issue 2 recreation. And again, every time I see it, I hear Chewbacca on this one. This is lot 11 priced at $800 for the cover recreation issue 3. Then lot 12 did sell to Gabe. So thank you, Gabe. So we'll go over to lot 13. That was from the D&D character piece. And this one's priced at $250. And it's on 11x14 Duralar. And again, this one on 11x14 Duralar as well. This is Sir Logan from the D&D feet. What was it again now? Friends and Foes. Friends and Foes. All right.
That's what it should have been called. We'll go with that.
Yep. Lot 14 at $250. Then we've got lot 15, which is the cover to Red Star 1. And this is, and it's the only traditional piece from the cover to Red Star 1 as well. So this is the only artwork that exists for that. This is priced at $5,000 on 11x17, drawn horizontally on the board, as you can see from the scan on the left-hand side there. And again, piece of history from the all of Red Star. Then we've got, this one is done on Duralar and only in the blue pencil here. So this is lot 16, another cover priced at $700. We have the interior DPS image from Red Star 2, priced at $400. And that was 17. Then we have lot 18 from Electra, priced at $200 from issue 1. We have another page. Every time I see that, lot 19, priced at $250. This one is from issue 2. And then from issue 4, a pivotal moment, kind of the lead up from the whole storyline to this moment, priced at $2,000. That's page 20, splash page from issue 4, lot 20. And then lot 21 here is a nice 6-panel piece priced at $200. And last but not least, lot 22. And this is from issue 5, page 10, priced at $250. So there we have it. Those are the ones that are still out there. And you can claim anytime you email me. I might as well show the slides again, just as a reminder. So you got my email address up there. First up is the shipping information, and then the email address and payment information on this slide. So obviously, Gabe, you're the one who has to email me. Well, we know each other, Gabe. I know you'll reach out to me. You probably already have. But anybody who has any inquiries can email me, bill@comicartfans.com, and we can take care of those for you after the show. And Christian, any parting thoughts here before we move on? I mean, when do you think we're going to know anything about the Disney project? Is it really on Disney's schedule, right?
So it's going really well in its reviews. I've just been informed that it's being reviewed at the executive level, and so that's going really well so far. And that's all I can say. As far as time, there's no way I can say a darn thing about a darn thing. So hopefully soon. I can't wait to see it. Everyone's going to love it. It's an amazing show, and that's what I've got for that. So Transformers Earthspark is also on Paramount Plus if you want to go see that. It's currently in season 1. I worked on season 2. A lot of great people working on that show. Very fun, very sweet show. If you're missing Ted Lasso, you should go to Transformers Earthspark because it's the same happy vibe of people, very like loving family support type vibe. And I'm also on a feature film that I can't say anything about, but it's also one that everyone's going to want to see when it comes out. Everybody knows it already, knows the franchise.
All right. So
I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming out today and hanging out. Thanks to everybody who took part in the chat. And thank you, Bill.
No, it was an absolute pleasure, Christian. I can't wait to I wish we were going to San Diego. We could have hung out and
next year.
Grabbed a bite to eat. Yeah, that would have been fun. But maybe next year. But no, these are always fun. Lots of fun. And so, and as everybody knows, we really do enjoy getting to have creators on with us. To me, it's a gift because we spend a lot of time talking with art dealers and collectors, but the opportunity to hang out with artists and get your perspective on the works that you create is, I think it's just fantastic. And you are probably one of the most unique creators as far as your diversity of the projects and the scope of the things that you get yourself involved in. But yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. So I hope everybody enjoyed the show today, and of course, enjoy the rest of your weekend. It is a Saturday, so we appreciate you taking the time out today. And Christian, obviously, hang out for a few more minutes, and we'll talk in the green room. But thank you, everybody. We'll see you again on. I got my next show on Monday night with artist Matt Wagner, actually. So we'll talk to you again.
Cool.